to present his opening speech to us.
Thanks, Ian. I'll probably need this because there's some people sitting quite far away. Just wanted to thank everybody for the invitation to come along and speak today. On behalf of the Midlands, the TUC. The Trade Union Congress in the Midlands represents just over 1.1 million working people. It's the largest voluntary organisation in the Midlands region, as it is indeed as far as the country is concerned, the TUC. So we've got a lot still to offer, but what makes it fairly exceptional about this year is the TUC's 150th anniversary. It was in 1868 that 34 men, because they were all men, held the first ever Congress of Trade Unions up in Manchester. And the reason that I raise that is because it was actually the Trades Council's network that called for that first Congress of Trade Unions. And there were delegates there from Birmingham Trades Council, because Birmingham celebrated its 150th year last year. Again, at an event that I had the pleasure of speaking at. So in 1868, Manchester and Salford Trades Council sent out a call for a Congress of Trades to debate the issues facing working people. And there's been a Congress of Trade Unions every year, ever since. And, you'll know as well as I do, there's been peaks and troughs, highs and lows. There always will be. But the thing for me about the trade union movement is if it weren't here today, it'd be created tomorrow. Because we've got an existence and we've got the right for that existence. And it's only us that basically do so much stuff and so many things to protect working people as far as the world of work is concerned. And that's why I say that. Look at the campaigns that we're running at the minute. I mean, one of the campaigns that the TUC in the Midlands is spearheading is a campaign to get greater employment protection for workers who are diagnosed with a terminal illness. Did you know that it's legal in this country to sack somebody based on their capability once they've been diagnosed with a terminal illness? We think that's fundamentally wrong. And we believe when somebody's going through such a life-changing diagnosis, that the last thing they should have to do is then to start to have to fight in order to keep their job at the same time that they're trying to preserve what life they've got remaining. And if we weren't doing that, nobody else would be. Bosses don't tend to wake up in the morning and think, do you know what? You've been good boys and girls at work today. I'm going to give you a pay rise. It's about us collectively bargaining on people's behalves and making sure that we can get that done. And that's why I make the point about if we weren't here today, we'd be created tomorrow. When that Congress took place in 1868, it said that there should be an annual Congress for the purpose of bringing the trades into closer alliance and to take action in all parliamentary matters pertaining to the general interests of the working classes. That's what it called for back then. I don't think too much has changed now in order for us to make sure that that happens, because the fights that we've got now are very similar to the fights that people fought then. They've not gone away. They've got better at times, but basically the gap once again is beginning to widen. When pay inequality was at its lowest in this country was when trade union membership was at its highest in this country. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because of that collective bargaining and that spirit as far as trade unions are concerned. And what we see now and what we're fighting against at the moment is a workplace and a world of work which isn't turning around and saying to people, here's a decent day's pay for a decent day's work. It's about unscrupulous employers still trying to get away with it, still trying to turn their back, still trying to exploit working people. Almost 1 in 3 jobs in the West Midlands in the last 6 years that's been created are on insecure contracts, where people don't know from 1 week to the next how many hours they're going to work or how much money they're going to earn. How the hell can you plan to feed a family based on such insecure work? They're the sort of things that we're fighting against now. Some of the things that were very similar to what people were fighting against when we was created all those years ago and when the trade unions came together for that first kind of Congress as far as unions were concerned. And if we have a look as well, because this is, I suppose, the rallying call. 150 years, it's great to be able to look back and say we're proud of their achievement. I always think, though, it's good at that point to also have a look in the mirror, to have a look at what you're about now, and then start to look to your future. Because it's up to us to lay the foundations for the next 150 years. We won't be around then. like we weren't around at the start of all of this. But what we've got to do is make sure that those people look back on us and say, yes, they protected our movement, and yes, they built the foundations. And what we've got to make sure that we do is to renew that trade union offer, to turn around to people and say, where do we fit in the 21st century? You know, one of the issues that we've got is just 13% of private sector employees are members of a trade union. Let me put that another way. 87% of people in the private sector are not members of a trade union. The people who need us the most are the least likely to join, and under 24-year-olds, it's 7% of under 24-year-olds members of a union. That's both public and private sector. We've got a job to do to be able to turn around to people and say where we make a difference. At the same time that the Labour Party membership almost doubled, trade union membership dropped by 250,000, our biggest drop in 25 years. So at the same time the party is increasing its membership, at the same time as that, trade union membership is beginning to fall. And we need to address that. I don't say that as a criticism, I say that because we need to recognise it. Because if we are going to stabilise this movement, build those foundations for the next 150 years, then we've got to show again to the people in the world of work why and where we are relevant and what that offer is. Now, the way in which we used to organise, in big manufacturing plants, huge workplaces, 99% of workers now work in a workplace where there's 250 or less people working in there. The old days of standing outside factories recruiting 500 members a day are long gone. So where is that offer? What is it that we can do to make sure that we build those 150 years and make sure that trade union membership starts to grow again so that people understand the strengths of collective bargaining and bringing people together? We've made progress in the past. We need to make some progress now if we're going to build those firm foundations for the future. And I believe that we need to do that together. I believe that the old way in which we recruited and organised, we need to look at now and address. I think that we've got to sit down with our affiliates and say to them, no longer can we walk in a room and ask 6 or 7 of our affiliates, where are you organising? And they don't say a word back because they're too worried that somebody else might go and organise in there in place of them. What we've got to do is to turn around to people and say, there's got to be an easier way to do this. People come up to us and say, we agree with what you're saying. We want to join. The TUC is unable to recruit a member. We have not got any individual members. All we can do is to turn around and say, right, where is it that you work? And then try and sign people off into the right direction. We've got to make it easier than that in order for people to be able to join and become part of this movement of ours if we're going to protect it as far as moving it forward is concerned. When those 34 men met back in 1868, they represented 118,000 members across the country. As I said to you earlier on, in the Midlands alone, over 1.1 million. So we've made those strides, we've made that progress. But what I say to you now is the rallying call for us, surely, on our 150th anniversary, is how we build the 150 years to the future so that we can make sure other people are protected by trade unions, both in the world of work and in society as a whole. I'm totally and utterly up for that. We've got some really tough things to be doing in order to make that kind of progress. But I think if we're up for it, then we'll make it. Because as I said to you earlier on, if we weren't doing it, nobody else would be. And if we weren't here today, we'd be created tomorrow. So thanks very much indeed. Enjoy your May Day event, and here's to the next 150 years.